I would like to thank each one of you for joining us this afternoon for a technical session titled Graduating from Group Based Loan Tweaking the SHG Model. It is my pleasure to invite on stage the esteemed panel for the session. This session shall be moderated by Mr. Amit Arora, Financial Inclusion Advisor, World Bank. And the panelists include Ms. Neeta Kejriwal, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India, Mr. Shantanu Pense, Chief General Manager, SBI, Mr. C.S. Reddy, Founding CEO, APMAS, Pramod Dubey, Group Product Head, Rural and Agribusiness, ICICI Bank. Welcome, all of you. We look forward to an insightful discussion. With this, I'd like to hand over the session to Mr. Amit Arora.
Thank you. Postless lunch session is never easy. So I'm more than pleased to see the audience here, more than our expectation. Hopefully, some more will trickle. In the meantime, we'll start. Neeta ji has to leave for important meetings. Don't want to delay this further. Okay. So the session we know what we're going to be talking about. When I first saw the title "Tweaking the SHG Model," I got a little worried. Why do we need to tweak the SHG model? For a change, it's doing fairly well. So, is there a necessity to do so? Because we want to do some engineering. But then, when we got into the details, at least I realized this is a welcome discussion, and I look forward to it. I have an esteemed panel. They've been introduced, so I won't get into that. Two of the three systemically important banks are here, so that adds a lot of weight, and so is Government of India's presence, adding to that. Uh, Incidentally, we are celebrating 3 decades of SHG bank linkage, this year, and we've come a long way. There have been hiccups, there have been great, phenomenal success stories, and in the recent years, especially after stabilization of NRLM, and I don't say this because you're here, ma'am. It's fairly stabilized. The SHG bank linkage. Morning, I heard somebody talking about the concentration, the southern concentration. If you see the SHG bank linkage data, steadily, gradually, this is spreading to other geographies. We have private sector banks who are also participating in the SHG bank linkage program, which was not the case for very long, which also shows that the model has matured. So the question is, what next? Or how do we reflect and see what we have gained, what we have learned, and then try and see what tweaking is required and what additionality we need to bring. So, one additionality that we all feel, and there are multiple sessions even in this conference on this topic, is how do you move up the ladder? Uh, there is a good section of group members, whether it's JLG or SHG, that's not very important because very often we've seen the borrower is on both sides. So that's not a challenge. How do they move up the ladder, or the financial sector is able to support them to avail enterprise financing? That as an ecosystem, I think we are still struggling, and we are here to deliberate this. My job is easier. I only get to ask the questions. So the difficult part is by the specialist, and I'll let them do that. I'll start with Neeta ji, you, ladies first. As I said, NRLM has helped the ecosystem take tremendous strides and stabilize. So, with you, I'll speak. I would request you to speak more on additionalities to the SHG bank linkage that we all know. What is it that you're looking forward as next step and expanding in the graduation space? I understand, by virtue of being a small partner, I'm privy to the initiatives taken, but for the benefit of larger audience, Please help us know how you are taking this forward. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Amit. And let me first thank the organizers. I hope I'm audible. Yeah. So let me first thank the organizers for inviting us here. Um, so to your question, Amit, NRLM has now been working for more than 11, 12 years. And we now have about 8.75 crore women organized in approximately 82 lakh self-help groups. So we've done quite a lot in institution building. We have more than 4 lakh village organizations, more than 30,000 cluster level federations. So after this whole institution building effort, we have now been focusing tremendously on livelihoods. We have some sub schemes under NRLM. We have the Start of Village Entrepreneurship Program. We have this is for setting up small enterprises. We have Mahila Kisan Sashaktikaran Pariyojana for agroecological practices and organic farming, etc. We are working on setting up these one-stop facilitation centers again to support a little larger enterprises. We've been working on a large number of value chains all across the states. We are setting up livelihood collectives in the form of producer group, producer enterprises, all women led, of course. We've been doing a lot in terms of supporting the marketing of the products of self-help groups. This will include having partnership with some e-commerce portals, having our own e-commerce portal, etc. So a lot of focus now on livelihoods. And our minister, Shri Giriraj Singh ji, he has given a call for having, ensuring that every SHG member is a Lakpati Didi. So, which means that, and she definitely has at least 1 lakh annual income. So we have, now taken up a target of ensuring that at least 2.5 crore SHG members are provided with some additional livelihood sources over the next 2 to 3 years. So, with this focus on improving the incomes of each individual livelihood, each individual SG member, we really have to work a lot on enterprise support, and that includes enterprise financing. So you are aware that in terms of financing of the self-help groups, we have the confidence of the financial sector, the banking sector, and now we have been able to mobilize from 13-14 onwards almost 6 lakh crore of credit for women self-help groups, and with very low NPAs, so very good repayments. But when we go to individual financing of individual SHG members for their enterprises, that is still a challenge. And perhaps there are several reasons for that. I think we'll go into those reasons later. But now we have started trying to work with the banks and with other partners in this sector also. So, for example, we are doing a pilot with the State Bank of India, where in a few states we are trying to work very closely together in identifying entrepreneurs and trying to finance them. We are hoping to have similar kind of MOUs with other banks also. We are working with partner organizations like IFC. We have another organization called Game supporting us here. These are kind of providing us the technical support, hand-holding support for a few states, making sure that certain number of enterprises are set up and also financed. We have also come up with a women enterprise acceleration fund. This is a very small fund, again in the nature of a pilot, which kind of supports some credit guarantee as well as some small interest subvention for entrepreneurs also. So these are the different kind of initiatives that we have started, and we hope that with the learning from these pilots, we'll be able to scale this up also in a big way. So I'll stop here with this.
Thank you. So this is heartening. Good to know that NRLM is now trying to move up the group borrowers for individual enterprise financing. Also, starting with none other than the banker to every Indian. So, Shantanuji, if you could elaborate what this pilot has been about and the experience thereof.
Yeah, thanks, Amit. Good afternoon, all. and good afternoon, all the panelists. See, in fact, if Amit would agree, I would digress from his question is that it's not tweaking SHG model. I mean, we are not here to tweak any or suggest any tweaking of SHG model. There is enough space for in the ecosystem for SHGs to exist and to individual enterprises to exist. The purpose is the purpose of what Madam Neeta said was even within State Bank of India, we have got almost 30,000 crore portfolio of SHG funding, which is huge. I mean, we lead the market as such with almost 26.85% market share, which also means millions of women engaged with the bank. And if you see what the Joint Secretary Madam said, was somewhere around 87 lakh, 37 lakh groups or uh, 82 lakhs, yes. So that's a huge number because that multiplied by 10 or 15 per group, that means a mammoth number. And if you see all across, the NRLM has almost 8 crore women, more than 8.7 crores. And the total ecosystem, if you take, there are 14 crores. That's something exceptional this country has. And we must be proud of our country for having gone through so difficult period in the last 2 years and still being very resilient. And not only that, the governmental policies and initiatives have proved to take us along, but even these women who are at the end of benefits, I mean, honestly speaking, in Indian perspective, they have also been resilient. And that's why I think that I will go to Amit's question saying that if you see how Mudra, the loan bifurcation between two genders, when we go up from Shishu to Kishore and to Tarun, it's just 17% and 6% representation of women in Mudras in SBI. I may not have the entire Mudra figures, but this must be a representational figure because, yeah. So the thinking between as directed by Joint Secretary was, we started this pilot somewhere in August, and it's so successful, Amit ji. We started with the initial target of 75 in 5 states, but now we have done more than 1,046 in I mean total taken together. And these women must be given wings to their dreams, I mean, their aspirations, because for now 30 years, this portfolio of 1.72 trillion rupees, formal credit given to SHGs, has got less stress than industry, less stress than retail, which is something exceptional this country should actually not only be happy about but boast, because this is the largest ecosystem of the world. I mean, this kind of portfolio. The stress is just 2% in this, despite the difficult times we had gone through. So we started this pilot, and now we are running it very, very successfully, and we want to take it forward. And why it will succeed is there are hundreds of thousands of women who have been working in SHGs for, and 57% of these groups are actually engaged in livelihood activities. So we have uniform procedures, the forms easy to understand. We are working with NRLM officials closely. And why this should grow is overall the ecosystem is growing. If you see the opportunities in the economy, they are up. Our growth rate of this country is up. The access to capital, there all the banks are now today ready to do this because of the reality is that SHG is a very, very good portfolio, which actually, thanks to NABARD, thanks to the NGOs who have been there for last 30 years, thanks to RBI, thanks to the government support, that, as you say, if you educate a woman, the entire family educates. So just imagine what will happen if you make a woman entrepreneur. The entire country gets benefited. So I think that today we will be driving this as a bank all across the country. We have great support from the government. The policy support is there. And to my mind, there are so many schemes as of now, post-COVID, which the government declared, one of which is obviously SBI has their own schemes, but we have got Agri Infra Fund, we got PMFME, we have got Mudra schemes, and there are plethora of schemes where we can actually give wings to the aspirations of women. And therefore, I do not agree to the theme per se, tweaking model. We've got enough ecosystem to coexist. Thank you, Amit.
Thank you, Shantanuji. Good to hear that you find the pilots giving promising results, and as a sector also, that's very encouraging. I'll move on to the private sector banker here, Pramod. You've been, if I may say so, a late entrant in the SHG business, but nevertheless, you're still the first private sector bank to do this in a meaningful way on scale. And of course, ICICI is also about scale as much as SBI. So, before we move on to the graduation part, uh, I've seen the data. You're fairly active in some states. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised. In Rajasthan, you are perhaps the number one bank in SHG bank linkage, which shows the quality that both sides are working towards. However, this is not something that probably you're doing across the board, right? So, what is it that you look for when you want to start doing this business in a particular state, and how do you feel the SHG model is evolving as a banker? That's the first part, but more importantly, I'll add the second part also. I believe you've also started with some pilots on the graduation model, so briefly share with us about your pilot experience.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Amit. Thanks, everyone. So, first part, as a bank, ICICI Bank, we started SHG lending about 12 years back. And currently, we have portfolio of approximately 3,500 crore. And I'd be happy to share that our credit losses in this portfolio has been even lower than many secured products. So that talks about the quality of work being done by all stakeholders, SRLM, NRLM, private SHPI, including our bank. And when you're talking about why our presence is not uniform across the country, in certain states like Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, our presence is very, very good, and we enjoy very good market share, but we are almost absent in few states. So the reason is the quality of operations. So before we start the business, or before we go and expand the business, we see what exactly is the operational quality in each and every state, and we go and see the quality in terms of whether there is a discipline in the center meetings, whether how good is the nurturing of the SHG, how the visits by different stakeholders, and wherever our experiences has been good, actually we have invested more and we have grown. It's not that we have not tried. We tried SHG in states like Madhya Pradesh, we tried in Gujarat, it tried in few other states also, but the success has not been uniform. And I would say that a lot of important role is played by the SRLM and other agencies. So and it's a more a collaborative work between the multiple partners, and it's not dependent on only one party. So that is the root cause. Recently, we are experiencing very good response in Odisha, and we are growing very, very fast. But nevertheless, we keep a watch on each and every state, and wherever we feel that we can go and try, we do that. So very, very recently, we have started work in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh also, which was actually not covered by us. And we are also bringing a new kind of innovative products to tap the Bihar market, because Bihar we had started some 4 or 5 years back, but we have not been able to scale up. So we will do that. Coming to the second part, lending to those SHG members who are graduating, their requirement actually is graduating from the microfinance need to the individual needs. Now, here I would like to cover why all of us are discussing about it. So the members whose income is less than 3 lakhs, they are covered by microfinance loans, either given in the form of SHG or given in the form of JLG. When the business grows and they require their income becomes higher than 3 lakhs. They become the part of, you can say, MSME. In MSME, especially micro enterprises. In micro enterprises, we can specifically say tiny enterprises, or maybe the nano enterprises. I was trying to gauge the market size of this segment, where the requirement would be in the range of 1 lakh, 1.5 lakhs to approximately 10 lakhs. And I was doing my own research. So I realized certain interesting data. If you see the MSME banking lending book size, it's a 5.7 lakh crore for only micro enterprises. But this is largely catered to those customers where requirement is more than 10 lakhs. So to judge the size where the requirement would be in the range of 1 lakh to 10 lakh, I came across that in India, approximately 1.5 crore MSME entities are owned by women. And out of that, 20%, approximately 20%, that would be 30 lakhs, are very, very small kind of enterprises. One report says their average requirement is 3 lakh per unit. And if I multiply with 30 lakhs to 30 lakhs multiplied by 3 lakhs, it's coming approximately 90,000 crore, which is coming only by the micro, very small enterprises owned by women. Now, when we see, and it's only MSME, it does not include agri and allied agri. With our experience in the microfinance, we have that for every one non-agri requirement, there are 2 agri and agri-allied requirements. So if I multiplied by 3, approximately the demand here would be approximately 3 lakh crore, where the requirement will be between 1 lakh to 10 lakhs, which is almost unmet, because neither it is being covered by the microfinance institutions, nor it is being covered by the banks in the form of MSME loan. So when the requirement is 3 lakh, I can say the credit gap is 3 lakh crore. Another question I was thinking that from the current set of my borrowers who are utilizing JLG or SHG, how many of them are immediately ready to avail this kind of role? And I did some certain maths. In JLG business, we have 70 lakhs individuals who have already availed more than 60,000 of loan currently. They can easily be given more than 1 lakh or 1.5 lakhs. And in SHG mode, we have 30 lakhs customers who have availed more than 60,000. So overall, 1 crore customers already have track record with the book size of 95,000 crore in the current scheme of things, which is approximately 10% of the overall microfinance population. So to answer that, we have 10% of my existing customers who can graduate into the new scheme, and that will be almost 1/3 of the entire population of the country doing this job, and where we don't have any experience as of now, they are still might not be into the formal sector. So my belief is to conclude that it's a huge, huge opportunity for all the banks. Only thing we'll have to maybe borrow certain learnings from our SHG business, extend those learnings towards this segment, and experiment how we can serve these set of customers who are actually graduating from microfinance to the next level. And I think this can be the big game changer. Because when SHG was started in the country, that time also it was new. People were apprehensive. Somebody tried it, and now we see the success. So I think for this segment also, this is the time we should experiment.
Thank you, Pramod. Very well presented, and the numbers are staggering. We all know this gap. For very long, this has been unfulfilled, if I may say so, in spite of all the strides which as a country we've taken. So we'll come back to this point. I also have some dumb questions of my own limitations and confusion. So we'll seek your inputs on that. But before that, coming to you, CSR, your own institutional journey has been very closely woven with the SHG movement. So just to pause and reflect, 30 years, what is it you think we now need to rework, learning from the experience so far? And now when we started, the federations were not visualized. The tech tools stack was not there. The aspirations have also grown manifold. So if you've to reflect and say, based on your learnings, what is it that could be tweaked or whatever be that word within the framework, which has worked very well? So what that would be?
Yeah, thanks, Amit. So I think Maybe the better wording would be reimagining the SHG movement. But I think the first thing I want to start, and I really enjoyed listening to the panel, is particularly the bankers and, of course, Neeta ji coming from the ministry. Uh, I think the first thing I want to mention, because we talk about 3 decades of SHG bank linkage, the experience and the learning, is the celebration. I think somehow, across the country, we should not be missing the opportunity to celebrate this humongous success of the 3 decades of SHG bank linkage. And I think the women really have achieved something phenomenal. So I think a big round of applause to all the women. We don't have any of them in this room, but I think they have shown the huge social capital that we have built over the years. I think if the reflection is there, Amit, one is social capital. I think, we have built millions of leaders, bookkeepers, auditors, bank Sakhi, Bhima Sakhi, all kinds of, even Pasu Sakhi. We have so many of those community resource persons. So the success of 3 decades is just phenomenal. So I would really urge Neeta ji to really take the moment and maybe organize and or maybe ask each state rural livelihood mission to celebrate the humongous success in whatever way they may want to do it. So that's the first point. The second, I think the opportunity is there. I think the demand is massive, and I, being part of Srinidhi as an apex financial institution, both in the states of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, which is lending supplementary to SHG bank linkage. Today, they together have a portfolio of 10,000 crores. And I think, again, for NRLM, it may be a missed opportunity. Why not every state have a Srinidhi kind of an organization that finances enterprises? Yes, SBI can do it. Yes, ICICI Bank can do it. But I think the women SHG federations themselves can come together and set up their own Mahila Bank, the so-called women's bank. I think Jayashree Ben talked about this 10 years ago. They have so much of savings. By the way, if you do a back the envelope calculation, today the women have in all these SHGs, 1.2 crore self-help groups, approximately 1.5 lakh crores of savings and retained earnings, which is almost equivalent to the loan outstanding. So if that is the case, why not banks and other institutions like SRLM, NRLM, NABARD support the emergence of these women financial institutions? Of course, there is risk of politicization. There is a risk of some kind of a vested interest creeping in. But I think that safeguards can be taken up. And Srinidhi is, I think, a living example of enterprise financing. So that is graduation. In fact, today Srinidhi gives an individual loan of 3 lakh rupees to a member, and minimum is 50,000 to 80,000. So a kind of an MSME or a nano enterprise financing is being done by Srinidhi. Second, I think, for the banks like SBI and ICICI Bank, the BC model has tremendous potential. By the way, SHG Federation has a BC. Your cluster level federations are eminently capable of handling BC role. Each cluster level federation having 400, 500, 300 SHGs. So that could be another game changer if we want to really look at the next 10 years vision. The third point I want to make, again, using their savings more effectively. I think we have a data issue, Neeta ji. In the country, somehow it is so difficult for us to have data on savings. We have data on the loans, but on the savings, we have no data. Data on SHG savings, member savings is all approximation. And I think a time has come using technology to really have reliable data at the member level. And of course, use the JAM, the mobile connectivity, the Aadhaar and the Jan Dhan accounts to do the individual financing as well. I think SHG financing, individual financing should happen simultaneously. And I think the final point I want to really make as we celebrate 3 decades of SHG bank linkage, I think we definitely need to put in the front for the next 10 years SHG federations. And I think they will be the cluster level federations. How do we develop them as autonomous, independent, capable, member owned, member managed, member controlled organization? That may require an appropriate legal form, that may require some kind of a business model, that may require, by the way, your CLFs can also promote FPOs. Why should government or NGOs promote FPOs? The cluster level federations of SHGs can promote the farmer producer organizations. They also can promote micro enterprises. So I think if we can build this autonomy and independence and have some kind of a system of self-regulation, self-supervision, where SHGs have an annual audit, annual elections, annual rating, I think that will really transform the SHG moment. And also when you have 500,000 SHG federations as CLFs, maybe much easier to support them, incubate them, mentor them, than trying to provide incubation support to 1.2 crore self-help groups, because that's just too large a number. So that's where I think there is scope for banks, the National Rural Livelihood Mission, NABARD, NGOs come together and do some kind of a task force, a think tank, to come up with the strategy. In fact, when we had the conference, AP Mass in Hyderabad, they came up with Vision 2030. And the only thing the women said is, how do we keep the government away from us? I'll stop there. Thank you.
Okay. So at least in the panel, we don't have that kind of a problem because NRLM has been playing a very enabling role. You've set the direction for, as you said, 2030. There is a lot of work to do. And interestingly, I'm not sure if you're aware, there are some SRLMs who are working towards becoming Srinidhi kind of a institution. Recently, Rajasthan started, Bihar and a couple of other states are working on that. But I'll come back to the graduation model. So back to both the bankers. Both of you have mentioned that you've had promising pilots. There is no dearth of opportunity here. That's the least of problem in India we have. But the question is, how do we move from pilots to autopilot? The template for scale. It takes a village to raise a child. And lending can follow promotional developmental activities, which is more of an ecosystem part. So, what, if I may come back to you, Shantanuji, what is it that as a banker you need from other stakeholders for you to scale this up rapidly?
Yeah, thank you. In fact, I will, before start, go back to what Mr. C.S. Reddy said. I mean, our economy is gauged based on the growth rate. But forget growth rate. No country in this world has got this kind of ecosystem well developed. I mean, this is the real capital of this country. That, you see, even within SHGs, hundreds and thousands of women across India, well organized, and they are super democracies in themselves. Is it not? That is why we are a very, very strong democracy. Coming to the point which Amit raised is, what we think is, there is no dearth of entrepreneurship in this country. And with the matured SHGs and the women who actually aspire, what we did in pilot with, in support with NRLM is, we developed certain templated forms. And we engaged with NRLM. What we look forward now is that the bank, and mind well, we need physical presence in this country to do banking. We cannot just go only on apps and digital. Even my engagement with agritechs also, or startups also, one thing they always tell me is that we exist in virtual world, but for connecting to farmers, we need your presence, because you are present in the rural semi-urban space. So when the startups also need this physical presence, so it has to be phygital. digital plus physical, both presence are required. So what, as a bank, I look forward to is the complete cohesive act between the NRLM, the NGOs, even we are working with some BCs, as CS Reddy sir said. So together we will have to work in specified geographies, perhaps. Uh, where the concentration is there, and almost 68% of the SHG is in southern part of this country. So we need to take it to the northern part also. Of late, we have seen a uptick in Rajasthan, in Uttar Pradesh, in Bihar also, in MP also. So there is ray of hope that this equilibrium will happen. But with the templated approach, only we can definitely take this forward. Plus, there is a NRLM support on kind of subvention to some extent. We can look forward to that. The bank already is working very, very closely with all government departments. So I see all upside in taking this. This pilot is already off the card. Now it's already running, up and running. So we'll make it happen. There is no question about it. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think for a scale up, we'll have to put a systematic approach. And I think we'll have to just extrapolate what we are doing in SHG model, because this is graduation from SHG. And I believe for any lending business, the pillars are the same, fundamentals are the same, whether it's a 1,000 crore loan or it's a 1,000 rupees loan. And we normally in banking industry, we say that three things are very, very important in lending. One is we go and judge the capacity to pay. Second, we go and try to judge the intent to pay. And third one is collateral. If both these things fail, then you fall back on the collateral. Now in SHG, what exactly is there? All three things are there. In the form of capacity to pay, it's about 10 people coming together and they are confirming that yes, this person is doing this much business and can afford this kind of loan. That is and it is declared by the individual member, and that is how we judge capacity to pay. I think when we graduate, we'll have to add one or more things. One is when somebody is saying that I now require 2 lakh rupees. One more thing we should do is we should go and do the verification of the business activity. So maybe this is the additional work maybe the SRLM should do or the banker should do, but we should go and just verify, yes, the person actually requires 2 lakh rupees. And I think that is how we can see the capacity to pay. Another thing which I suggest is, which is a little operational in nature, that we can make maybe 50 kinds of templates. When I'm saying 50 kinds of templates means there are 50 kinds of small businesses being done in rural areas. Maybe kirana store, medical store, carpenter, etc., etc. Can we do a small research, maybe with the help of World Bank along with the bankers, and make a template for all kind of operational ratios and financial ratios for that kind of business? So the moment I go and meet a kirana store, I ask maybe 4 or 5 questions, that how many customers you get on daily basis, what is your sales, and then by putting that into my template, I have all the data in my maybe tablet or in my computer, that yes, annual turnover will be this much, annual profit will be this much, annual OPEX will be this much, because I have already done a research and I know the ratios. We will not have more than 50, 60, 70 kinds of businesses, and that template can be used. So the moment officer goes, he can easily gauge the capacity to means assess the income. Coming to the intent part, we are doing bureau check already for SHG members. Here, one more thing I would suggest, that after post disbursement, I should go and check the intent whether the money is being utilized for the purpose which was mentioned before disbursement, and that will actually will keep in mind of the members that yes, tomorrow the banks and the other SHPI come and actually check. So that will ensure the quality. Third one is the collateral. So collateral here, my suggestion would be that the person, when it is graduating and getting a more loan over and above what the group has been getting, still the member should continue to be part of the group. The member should not go away. Loan should be given only if the group is recommending, so that the social collateral is continuing as it is and that is not being diluted. So these are the few operational points which are in my mind. I think the same fundamentals we should extend a little bit, so that we are able to extend more loans. Another enabler which I would like to mention here is, as far as JLG is concerned, the bureau reporting by all the financiers is very, very systematic in the name of all the members. But in case of SHG, that is not uniform, because most of the banks give loan in the form of the group. They do not have the complete details of each and every member. So the reporting in the name of member may not be the perfect. That is where I think all of us will have to come together and ensure that the reporting in case of SHG also is perfect. So tomorrow when they are graduating, it's become easier for us to decide, because many times the recommendation has come from the group, but the individual member does not have the good track record. So that becomes a bottleneck.
So that's the tricky part.
Come in at this point only, adding to what he said, not taking much time. In fact, we are, in the morning I heard the opening address where they said that the technology is not able to reach to the bottom of pyramid, the access to capital and technology. But the country is at an inflection point basically because, we are working with government and we are one of the, as bank, we are actually trying to develop a model for even KCC, Kisan Credit Card, end-to-end digitalization. And the pilot is already proven. I mean, a KCC borrower who wanted a credit and has to wait for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we are actually disbursing the loan in 3.5 minutes. 3.5 minutes, you rightly heard. And the pilot is already successful. Maybe it's question of 15 days or 30 days where we make this reality. Because of the diversity of languages, diversity of states, we have certain challenges, but this is a reality. Similarly, in case of the enterprise, coming back to the question, is for Mudra also end-to-end, next 15 days, 20 days, 30 days, or maybe 5 weeks, that will be going end-to-end digital, which necessarily means that the credit decision is taken in 5 minutes by the system itself. So, देश बदल रहा है. So, thank you, Amit. I just wanted to update this.
This is very encouraging. Neetaji, you just heard the bankers in terms of their expectation to make this a scalable, vibrant ecosystem where all stakeholders come together. I understand some of this work NRLM has already taken up, but if you could just elaborate what more enabling role NRLM is playing or expected to play in the times to come beyond just SAG bank linkage.
I think a lot of the points that Mr. Dubey and Shantuji have made are actually resonating with our thoughts also, because the kind of estimation he talked about, 1 crore women wanting, running enterprises and wanting to have some higher doses of financing, that is exactly the kind of estimates we were also coming up with. And it's not only these 1 crore entrepreneurs that are existing in the SCG ecosystem. With the focus that NRLM is giving on supporting livelihoods, we are expecting equal numbers to be ready very soon in future also. So there is a huge demand. And as Shantnuji said, the finances are not coming to the women borrowers. As he said, in Mudra loans also, largely the women are getting from this issue category, and that too very small amounts, 30,000, 35,000. And this is an amount that the members can actually get from the SCG ecosystem itself. So what they require from the banks is larger amount, as they mentioned, above 50,000, maybe a lakh, or even going up to maybe 10 lakhs. So that kind of financing is not coming. And the one of the main reasons I feel that this is not happening is uh, because of the risks associated with enterprise, and ultimately it is the bank branch manager who is doing the assessment and taking a call whether or not to extend the loan. So there is no standardized kind of credit risk assessment system. If we could come up with that kind of standardized, and Pramodji talked about it right now also, that if we could have these templates maybe 50 or 100 or whatever number it is, but if we could have these templates, which would be which would make it very easy for the bank branch manager to make an assessment, that would really help. And I think one of the reasons why we got into these pilots is also that to be able to come up together with SBI or together with other banks that we'll work with, some standard templates which then can probably be adopted by all the banks. So that would help in a big way. So that is one work that we have started taking. But there are many things that actually NRLM offers, and many of the concerns that Pramodji raised in terms of identification of the proper entrepreneurs. So NRLM can do that, have very stringent criteria for identifying the correct entrepreneurs who have, based on their financial behavior in the past, the kind of loans they have taken, the repayments that they've done, and of course making an assessment of their business. So we have also come up with an Udyami app, which can collect all the relevant data and then make an assessment, also help in making an assessment, and also help in monitoring the subsequent progress of the business also. And we are, we have a large pool of community resource persons, the community cadres, and we are providing trainings not only to the staff in the SRLs, but also to the community cadres to be able to provide the kind of support required, to the banks in making assessment of these entrepreneurs. And also, we have, as I mentioned earlier, we've come up with this credit guarantee fund. So it's a small amount right now, but it can definitely be, it's again in the nature of a pilot, and we can enhance it also. And there is a small element of subsidy also for the entrepreneurs. So that should again provide some confidence to the banks. And we also know, Mr. Reddy talked about cluster level federations coming up as facilitators. So that is also something that we are looking at, the cluster level federations as business facilitators, also providing all financial services and support that may be required. So we are very strongly working on strengthening the cluster level federations to be able to provide. So with all this whole package of interventions, I'm sure we'll be able to provide much more confidence to the banks to be
So,
able to
Pramod, this
support.
sounds very promising. All your wish list is getting ticked. In fact, you spoke about collateral not being there, and probably once we're through with this, you can pitch for the credit guarantee that they're willing to provide. Uh, uh, Mr. Reddy, so this seems to be on the right track. Is there something that, and this is open for other panelists also before we move to the Q&A, I'm mindful of the time, ma'am, you need to leave. Uh, is there any regulatory or policy ask that we have which can help us accelerate further? Or we're all very happy and it's been done and dusted from that perspective?
Yeah, thank you. In terms of the, I think I already mentioned the business correspondent is, I think, is a beautiful model that all banks, without really increasing their own expenditure, can make best use of and use the cluster level federations as BC. I also want to mention in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, IndusInd Bank is working with FinSerin. In fact, Dr. Y.V. Reddy, who was earlier with SRLM, he runs this FinSerin. They have now done almost 15,000 loans, 1 lakh rupees to 3 lakh as a BC of the IndusInd Bank. And I think the repayment is fantastic, 99.27 or something like that. And of course, there were some COVID issues. So I think, and Subk is doing from basics. So you can use the cluster level federations, you can use the BC agencies, or maybe some of the NBFCs. But I think the demand for credit from these enterprising SHG members who have themselves graduated, by the way, we have not even realized that they have graduated. My estimation is 20% of the SHG members, and I'm only talking about bank linked SHGs, which is around 67 lakhs. So you multiply it by 2, and we are talking about 1.3 crores. So 1.3 crore women today are asking for a loan anywhere between 1 lakh to 3 lakhs or 5 lakhs, I would say. So I think if we are able to come up with easy and a very quick way, and again, I don't think we need to do too much of piloting, to be honest with you. We have done too much of piloting in India. It is now time to go for scale. And the legal form, Amit, you mentioned, I think the SHG Federation Act, I think Neetaji has been pushing for it. I would like NRLM to be a bit more aggressive, because see, ultimately, you don't want each SRLM to go off the tangent. So if the National Rural Livelihood Mission can push certain agenda, then the 500,000 cluster level federations could really emerge as enterprises, collective enterprises. And we may go by the German model where there is a self-regulation, self-supervision, audit, rating, kind of elections for these kind of federations, which are run by themselves, not by any government agency. So if you can truly promote them as autonomous organizations, today we are talking about SHG movement managing around 3 lakh crores. I think, in the next couple of years, we could see a million lakh crores being managed by the SHG movement. That is the potential. Thank you.
Thanks. Any of the panelists have any regulatory or policy asks?
Two
Quickly.
regulatory uh, suggestions or maybe requests. One is from ma'am. So from NRLM, there is a circular on SHG lending. That's very, very elaborate. And RBI verbatim forwards that circular to the banks to be followed. So that becomes equivalent to RBI circular also from regulation point of view for the banks. So my request is to include these individual loans also in that circular, so that it becomes very, very easy to navigate all kind of policies within the bank also, and maybe across the ecosystem. Because today the circular says up to 15 lakhs or 20 lakhs per group. There are 10 or 12 members, it becomes only less than 1 lakh. And very few actually groups reach to that level. So maybe this can be incorporated in that circular.
I'm sure NRLM is all game. Hopefully the regulator is listening too.
Yeah.
Second one.
Another request from RBI. So all of us are aware that banks have target for MSME as a part of PSL. And other than agriculture, actually 22% can be fulfilled from MSME. But now there is a requirement of URC, Udyam Registration Certificate, for any kind of giving credit to any loan for to qualify into MSME. And we know that all these tiny enterprises which we are talking, they don't have education and they don't have motivation to go and register in URC. And we have been trying to get URC for all our existing customers, even the big customers in a bank. And it was very, very tough for all of us for the last 1.5 years to get URC for all the clients.
So I can respond to that, Pramod. I'm just back from a field visit in one of the states, Tamil Nadu, SRM, and I was pleasantly surprised, though I often feel there is not too much of transaction cost being loaded on to the demand side for formalization and whatnot. So as ma'am mentioned, the field cadre supported by the SRLM has taken it upon themselves. They have been trained, they have been equipped to generate Udyam registration numbers. So I saw, they showed actually on the dashboard, there were about 4,000 SHG members who have applied for individual entrepreneurs loan, and the field cadres have already got this registered. So if I may take the liberty, this is something I think the machinery on ground can manage. This should be
Then
served.
that will be.
But this point is very important. This is obviously not something that the banker can go to the ground and do. Ma'am.
Yeah, so that will take care of it.
Just adding to the point Pramodji made, so the definition of MSME right now, the micro enterprises right now, is not really suitable for these tiny enterprises, because I think it talks about investment of 1 crore and turnover of 5 crore annual, and all the formalization requirements that these bigger enterprises have, they automatically fall on these tiny enterprises also. So I think there is a need to create subcategories in the definition of micro enterprises, because all these
Nano, micro, small.
yeah, absolutely.
You're saying those enterprises, home-based enterprises for let's say 1 lakh rupee or 1.5 lakh rupee loan, they need not get into this kind of
So it has a cost. All
Yeah.
these compliances and
Fair point.
formalization has a cost.
Fine.
And of course, I talked about standardization of risk assessment criteria. So those are the things that.
Fine. Thank you. I've got a chit. We need to wind up, but it'll be unfair if we don't open it up for some questions. I have a question, but I don't know whom to ask, which is on the interest rate. I'll park that for now. And anybody from the audience would like to ask any of the panelists any questions? Can I ask if there are no questions? Okay. I actually don't know which is one of the panelists to ask because you don't fall in that category. The question is on interest rates. Except for State Bank or ICICI Bank and one or two other banks, majority of the private sector banks, especially small finance bank, are today not in a position to offer the interest rate that you offer. So this becomes a difficult proposition. Uh, a borrower, micro enterprise, who wants 2 lakh rupees, if they're going to borrow at 19% or 20% or 18, 22%, this business is not going to be sustainable. Do we have any way to address this? Are there alternate models? Could we have social impact fund or defraying of cost by our third party players, or is there micro equity which can help? uh, I really don't know, but if any one of you can take a stab at this.
I'll just mention about, yeah, I'll just take a minute. The interest subvention that NRLM provides, I think if that itself is extended to even private banks, maybe, in some of the cases, they kind of don't seem to be eligible, or I don't know, so some circular. In fact, when you mentioned about circular in covering individual loans in addition to SHG loans, I also wanted to mention any bank that wants to finance a federation, the guidelines should also cover, because sometimes there are banks, instead of funding each of the SHGs, they are happy to fund a village organization or a cluster level federation. But I think the way I see it is that particularly the private banks or the small banks, they have to think of this as a different segment and have to be in line with the interest rates charged by SBI or ICICI Bank. Otherwise, what happens is a lot of times complaints go to the state rural livelihood mission that this bank is exploiting. So those issues, even when the cooperative banks charge 2% extra, the SHGs get worked up. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, I will add to what Reddy sir said. And with due respect to the NBFC friends who are there, I mean, I want to respectfully tell that there is a thought which is propagated at times is that you need capital, forget the cost. I mean, the access to capital is more important than the cost of capital in the rural or semi-urban areas. But that may not be fully true. Reason being, as C.S. Reddy sir said, if you are funding at 20% or 25%, and I have seen 28% also, the credit itself is so exorbitantly high that it's like a money lender's credit. But let me tell you, 2 points I will highlight. One, what Madam JS said, we are working on business rule engine, digital lending model, which should be up and running maybe in a month's time, which necessarily means that no person takes a credit decision, ma'am. There is a democratization of credit, if I may say so. Just like KCC in Mudra also. And not only in Mudra, up to 10 lakhs, 10 to 50, 50 to 5 crores. That's how it is. That you log in into, and the way government is working, and we are working with DFS, there are already 15 schemes on Jansamarth. Not all the banks have come into Jansamarth, but we are the bank who is actually developing that alongside DFS, under the direction of DFS. So when you come end-to-end Mudra and SME under BRE, there is no person who takes the credit risk as such. So that fully allows, what we say within our bank is democratization of credit. So rest assured that there won't be any challenge on that part. Number two, As far as collateral is there is enough policy support from government as of now. Is that there are several schemes by Government of India, various departments, and fully backed by one, concessional letter of interest, second, subsidy in some of the schemes, and third, they being collateral free because the government gives us guarantee. So no time in independent India a atmosphere existed like this, which is very congenial for actually enterprises to flourish. That's what my take is. And therefore, as the banks, as NBFCs also grow into small banks and take up the banks, banks would also metamorphose into the roles which NBFC plays because of the physical plus digital presence. And the bigger banks, of course, SBI, ICICI, HDFC, and maybe Bank of Baroda, Bank of India, will definitely go into the RUSU space through the physical as well as digital space. And obviously, we cannot sustain 28% or 25%. Maybe double digit rate of interest may be feasible, 10%, 11%, depending on how the MCLRs of the bank flow. But definitely 25% or 28% is unviable. And sooner or later, when more and more Jansamarth usage happens, more and more credit will get democratized with easy access through technology as well as the physical presence. Thank you.
Any questions, anyone? Otherwise, I'll sum it up and we are ready to move on. So on the last point, I still feel for the private sector, the rate that they offer is a function of their cost of funds. So that's a problem they're grappling with. There are no easy answers. Perhaps somewhere there is a middle path if they get access to lower cost of funds, which has happened in past. Whether it is RIDF or other social investors, that is something which can bring in that kind of a fund which will help them also compete with the larger banks. This I personally feel is an area where we should work on. But overall, I think these are exciting times, as it seems from all these speakers here. Hopefully next time when we meet, we'll be asking you how many 3.5 minute graduation loans banks have done. I don't want to compare these loans with KCC. That's not necessarily a good example. We'll, at least in terms of competition, we'll still be there. So, on that promising note, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, panelists, for such engaging session. Um, as a token of appreciation, we request the panelists to accept the souvenir as they walk down from the stage. We will start with plenary 2, 2 tracks, 1 mission, reaching the bottom of pyramid. At 4, the curtains will be, this will be the one room. So please stay here only and join us. Or you can shift to the central part. Thank you so much.